You read that title right. I've done over 100 hours of Wave 4 Zuck, and in this video, we're going to look at the strategy, the loot, and how worth it is to do this. The first question is why you would want to do this. Well, in typical Iron Man fashion, I have to announce to the world that I am indeed an Iron Man. While Wave 4 Zuck isn't the best thing to do for anything, it is a solid way to get a ton of supplies, including various important runes, bolt tips, gems, herbs, grapevine seeds, manuscripts of full, Alex, and a ton of alchemist keys in the chest that gives you even more various supplies. Overall, in my humble opinion, it is one of the best things you can do as an Iron Man fairly AFK in order to make progress on your account. As for a main, with high enough stats, it's a very easy thing to do fairly AFK to get around 10 million GP per an hour with a very, very low cost of supplies. Let's look at the setup. Now, I want to caveat this by saying that the most popular gear setups for this strategy prioritize the kills you get an hour. But as an Iron Man, I want to look at the supplies I'm using instead. As such, my goal is to lower the number of supplies that I'm using so I can make this as sustainable as possible. Furthermore, the time spent here was all done prior to the initial necromancy nerf on October 20th. Now, I do believe that everything that I'm going to talk about here in the gear setups and the strats are all still viable. There may be some tweaking required because of the nerf and the slight rebuffings. For a low input cost setup, I chose the tier 90 tank necromancy top and legs with a minimum perk setup of scavenging 4, enhanced devoted 4, and devoted 4. For less drain rate, you could also just have one piece of armor augmented, perked with enhanced devoted 4 and devoted 4, but I felt the free components are worth the excess drain rate. We'll also pair this gear with the highest tier power helmet, power boots, and Cinderbane gloves. You could also lower the drain rate by downgrading the tier 90 top and bottom, as I personally felt like this is over prepared, and I did do that in my theory crafting, but I did not have the materials to downgrade. In fact, were I to do this again, I would actually probably use a tier 70 power set instead. We also want to be using the highest tier weapons we have available. At this point for me, it was the tier 90s, ideally perked with Precise 6 Ruthless 1 and Aftershock 4 Equilibrium 2. However, mine personally has Precise 6 Genocidal and Aftershock 4 Ruthless 1 due to a lack of the materials for the best in slot perks. We also want to be using a full book and an Amulet of Souls, as these are fully self-sustaining here. For your ring, you can choose anything, but I personally opted for a Reaver's ring. For our prayers, we'll be making use of the regular prayer book and use a combination of Hand of Doom and Protect from Melee. If you want to increase your supply usage in exchange for more kills per an hour and drops per an hour, you could change the prayers for further damage boosting, but you will need to be paying more attention. On screen now, you'll see the inventory setup we will be using. As I stated, most setups prioritize kills per an hour, but we decided to look at sustainability. For the inventory, we want a couple of pieces of emergency food, a ritual shard, and as many super prayer renewals for as long as we plan on staying. By limiting our prayers, we are lowering our drain rate so that only the renewals and ritual shards by themselves will sustain us as long as we are here. If you want to increase your kills per an hour, you can toss in overloads and weapon poison plus, but you'll also need some extra prayer potions. For our revolution bar, we want the following abilities in the following order: Vengeful Ghost, Spectral Scythe, Skeletal Warrior, Soul Strike, Soul Snap, and Blood Siphon. This will give you a very good balance of survivability and AoE damage, with the necessary suns to kill the special mobs. If you are using more supplies, I would personally get rid of Blood Siphon, as it's not really mandatory with Soul Split. Our positioning on the arena is slightly different than what I said in my previous videos where I touched on this subject. This time, what we will be doing is we'll be starting from the stalagmite on the western wall in the cove, and we will be moving 4 paces to the north and 4 paces to the east. In prior videos, I said move 5 paces to the east, but when we move 5 paces, we're actually hit by the lava spring, where at 4, we don't, and we don't have to worry so much about survivability. After getting to the spot, we want to make sure we have our AFK warden set up to alert us when our ritual shard is off of cooldown and your prayer renewal has worn out. I personally just hit my special action keybind every few seconds and listen to the pings for when one of my prayer restorations are ready and hit those keybinds. Not necessarily 100% AFK, but zero attention needed to be paid. Next up, let's look at the cost of doing something like this. Before going over the costs, I do want to state that I had done this for over 100 hours, 108 hours to be exact. As you can see from the table, we used 1,080 doses of Super Prayer Renewal, or 180 Super Prayer Renewals potions total. In Iron Man terms, this is the equivalent of using 240 Ronars, Fellstalks, Snapegrass, and Morshella mushrooms for the full 108 hours, assuming 0 boost when making the supplies for ease of math. This translates to just about 2 of each of these per an hour. We ended up using 10.5k ectoplasm during that time as well, just shy of 100 per an hour. Something I did not include is the number of divine charges I used, as I forgot to see how much charge I started with. What I do know is that starting, I was nearly out and I created 300 divine charges over the course of this 100-hour grind, or about 4.5 additional hours invested with using the divine vacuum, and I still had 50,000 charge remaining when it was all said and done. Now let's take a look-see at the loot and the XP we had gotten, starting with our XP gains. We started this grind with a total of 27.5 million necromancy XP and ended with a total of around 63 million for a total gain of 35.4 million XP in necromancy. This gives us an average XP per hour of just shy of 330,000 XP per hour. This is a bit higher than the amount I had gotten for my 5-hour test a couple of videos ago by about 45k XP an hour. This could be for a few reasons, such as the difference in my positioning and the additional levels I had gained during this time. And on top of that, the fact that we were doing less poison damage as we are not using weapon poison +++ in this scenario, increasing the amount of XP we get for necromancy. On screen now, you'll see the chest as a whole for the 108 hours, all uncollected. As you can see on screen, on the day of checking the chest, it was valued at 940 coins. However, this is not necessarily correct. The reason is the game values some items not actually correct, such as troves, valued at 50 coins per an item inside the chest, where a trove is truly worth 116,000 as of writing this script. What I've done is I've created a table placing the different items at their current price, or what they are valued at according to the GE for every single item. Let's separate them item by item, type by type to see how much we make on each item. I do want to caveat this by saying that for alkables, I value them at the GE price instead of the alk price, so you'll be making more if you choose to alk them. Our first group of items are what I am dubbing as Zuck items. Items that are gained either only through the Zuck fight or from other Tazar activities such as kiln, fight caves, or fighting obsidian monsters. As you can see, these items totaled to around 157 million coins, and we had gained about 1.5 million coins an hour just from them alone. If you choose to use your alchemist keys instead of just selling them, you should end up with more money. The other big highlight from this is the manuscripts of full. You end up with a profit on pages if we use the Zuck book. And now I have over 700 hours of full buck usage just from this grind alone. The next group of items we have is runes. Now, this isn't the best way to get runes, but it is a great AFK method in order to get them. At the current prices, runes was valued at 80 million coins, or about 750k gained an hour. With the combat beta, however, which should be bringing the other combat styles in line with necromancy, I can see runes increasing in price. And this blood rune stack would feel very, very good if that does happen. Though personally, I don't really think magic is going to be very heavily affected with the beta, but free runes are still good on an Iron Man. The next group of items we have is our herbs and our seeds, totaling in value of about 43 million coins, or about 402,000 coins an hour. As an Iron Man, these seeds and herbs we've gained after farming all of them will give us over 10,000 of each of these herbs, a massive stack for future overloads. Next group of items is our bolt tips, which is a huge chunk of the money that we are regaining. We had gained nearly 30,000 onyx bolt tips and 10,000 hydrix bolt tips, which brings us a total of 252 million coins of profit, or 2.3 million an hour just from this group of items. If we choose to tip some criminal bolts, that's over 500,000 fletching experience. Personally, I'm planning on keeping the hydrix as those are very useful for adrenaline gain. However, the onyxes, I will keep keeping a small stack in case they are ever useful, and sell the rest to the general store for cosmetics for something that I want. Next up, we have our craftable items, gems and elemental orbs. As you can see, we have a large stack of our money coming from this group of items alone, a total of nearly 283 million coins, or just north of 2.6 million coins an hour. As an Iron Man, the only thing I can do with the majority of these items is look at them as crafting XP, which after obtaining the battle staves required to net me a massive, drumroll please, 9.3 million crafting XP. or a bit over 10% of what I have left for 120 crafting. Pretty nice gains if I do say so myself. And finally, we have our miscellaneous items, totaling in at 237 million coins in value, or bringing in 2.1 million coins an hour. Now, a bit of a caveat again, I looked at the salvage as if we are selling it instead of alking it. If you choose to alk it, this number would be a bit higher. But by doing this, we will have enough Serenic scales to seemingly never have to worry about them again, or at least for a long while. We also have a large stack of elite clues, which, if you don't know, because they are in the chest, they continue to stack past the calf, if and only if you do not have 50 or more in their bank. So if you want to keep gaining elite clues, this is a great way to passively gain them without having to complete any of them. Just be sure that you will do them all before sending them to the bank, or you will have a huge loss in opportunity cost, as the second you hit collect 50 in your bank, you will no longer add elite clues from drops. Personally, I kept mine in the chest when looting the chest until I am positive that I will have a huge clue session in order to solve them all, or when I decide that I would like to downgrade them instead. As you can see right here, what this truly totals out to is a total value of 1,053,196,634 coins, or just north of 9.75 million GP per an hour. Pretty nice gains if you ask me. So comment below if this is something that you would do. What would you change about doing this? Be sure to like and subscribe, and if you're interested in more awesome AFK activities, be sure to click on this video where I share my top 5 favorite AFK activities to do for your Iron Man. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a wonderful day.